What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about Mike, the situation Sorrentino, and specifically his arms and arm genetics, arm muscle inserts, and if I think he took Synthol or not to enhance his biceps and triceps in particular. So if you go back and look at Mike, the situation before Jersey Shore fame and all that kind of stuff, he did have a more well-rounded physique in my opinion. He has a good chest. Obviously, he's known for his abs, even though I think his genetic ab inserts are actually very subpar. But his arms in particular, you can tell just how overwhelming they are relative to the rest of his body. And honestly, he almost never shows his back, and it's because when he does, it's, non-existent basically. But he does have a decent chest and really good arms. Those are his genetic strong points. In particular, the arms overpower. Even when he loses muscle, the arms always seem to stick around, and it's led to accusations of potential Synthol use. And even in present day, like when he actually gets on track, his arms look as good as they did like back in like Jersey Shore season 1, when he was like actually hardcore going to the gym. So like this guy's like fresh out of prison, and his arms look as good as they did when he was 26 or 27. He's like 10 years older now. So like I said, though, looking back on his physique when he first started out, the guy definitely had a good build. He obviously saucing back then. I'm sure he's still saucing right now. And the arms have never really changed as far as whether or not they were, naturally gained. I think it goes without saying the guy definitely took gear, but like that's just the whole life. Even if you want to argue if this is achievable naturally or not, like he obviously regressed when he was in hardcore party mode. He would get fatter and softer because he's not on his regimen. Like here you can see he was probably doing tons of interviews all the time, probably barely training, probably, not sticking to a diet properly, probably traveling all the time, or just partying in the house during the filming or whatever. But still, the arms, you can still see how much they dominate his physique in particular. Like the guy has barely visible abs at this point, but his arms are still, pretty cranked looking. And, people have started to think they look sort of unnatural is the main thing. It's not just that they're dominating, it's the insert themselves that sort of look unnaturally gained. Like they kind of hold this inflated, almost, Synthol-esque look, which leads people to think he perhaps used site enhancement oil in his early 20s to get those arms to where they were. And honestly, it's entirely possible he did, but I just kind of wanted to go through here with you to show you what I think personally, and then you can take from that what you will and make your own assumptions. But throughout his progress, the arms have always been a genetic strong point. Like I mentioned, here you can see him training at the gym, arms bigger than his fucking head here, just blatantly overpowering the physique. And I honestly have not seen, other than before he went into the Jersey Shore house, I haven't seen his physique really take a balanced look. It's always the arms hold all the size, and then the rest of them sort of falls apart when he's not like on his regimen. And even when he's on his regimen, it's like the arms still overpower and seem to hold all the size. And some people might think that's indicative of fascial stretching from having oil in them and whatnot. And I'm not gonna lie, he does have a bit of an unnatural appearance, like I mentioned. And in all these videos, the arms are just very unnatural looking. But what I did want to compare this to in particular, the first thing that came to mind when I saw this is Julian Smith. So if you've ever seen Julian Smith before, he's basically Mike the Situation's arms on steroids, essentially. Like this guy's triceps are like from Mars. They make absolutely zero sense whatsoever. And I don't think this guy claims natural. He's, been put himself up to testing many times. People always, say they want to test him and they never follow through. This guy has some of the nuttiest arm genetics I've ever seen relative to the rest of his physique. Like it's so overpowering of his physique, and it kind of reminds me of the Situation, to be honest. And I don't think anyone thinks Julian Smith used Synthol, even though he, in some images, like it's even more of a questionable thing than with Mike the Situation. Like the images I just showed you, you see the bicep footage. It's sort of like a similar look. It's kind of just like a big, overpowering fucking melon on his bone, essentially. I don't even know how to describe it, but when this guy takes side profile shots too, like the overpowering tricep is just next level. Here's probably a good image here. You can see the tricep belly is just, hanging off this guy. And it's not a whole lot different than how Mike's arms look, in my opinion. They have a very similar look where they kind of just like hang off the bone and are far more developed than the rest of the physique. Like, obviously Julian Smith has a way better, more well-rounded physique than Mike. He has, good legs, good abs, good chest, as far as I know. The only thing he's really lagging is, delts and back and traps are pretty deficient compared to the rest of them. But, this look, this kind of like muscle belly inflated Synthol look, I used to think that Mike the Situation probably used Synthol, but then once I started to see these genetic outliers that have this kind of look like Julian Smith, I do not think Julian Smith jabbed himself with a bunch of Synthol. He just doesn't. Obviously, it's, what kind of evidence do I have to support that? Nothing really, but I don't think he did. And just looking at this arm, it's almost like the same kind of appearance that Mike's physique takes on, and I think it's just a genetically dominating trait that both these guys share. And at the end of the day, I think that they are both achieved, when I say naturally, I mean without sight enhancement. I don't mean naturally as in without performance enhancing drug use. I think Julian has admitted before that he's taken pro hormones and several years ago. Obviously, that's not indicative of current use or even recent use. And Mike hasn't really admitted anything either. I think he claims natural, actually. But with that being said, that's not what I'm trying to identify here. I'm trying to identify SEO use in unnatural looking muscle bellies, essentially. And to me, this is just like Julian Smith is just a more developed version of Mike the Situation in Mike's prime, even. Like, Julian has most out of proportion and nutty arms in the industry. And, a lot of people would accuse this guy of, Synthol use, but I don't think that either of them have used SEO. I could be wrong, obviously, but I just do not feel that it's the case. I feel like it's a genetic trait that some guys just share, and I guess they're lucky in that regard. Like, it looks pretty damn good to people who want cranked arms. Like, I wouldn't mind having a tricep that is from a different fucking solar system like this guy, to be honest. It would definitely balance out my delts. And to me, I think both these guys just have insane tricep genetics in particular, good arms overall with really good muscle bellies. Or, you can argue if they're good or bad because they're out of proportion, but, relative to what an average genetic person would have for their muscle inserts, these guys, their development blows them out of the water. And this is why their arms look so impressive all the time. And perhaps, make them look like the rest of their body is underdeveloped relative to that muscle group in particular. So anyways, take from that what you will. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you guys think that either of these guys use SEO, if you guys think they're natural, unnatural, what do you think of these guys' physiques in particular? Do you think their triceps in particular are achievable naturally and it's just a genetic trait? Or do you think they probably did something in their youth to stretch that fascia out and create this, unnatural, inflated SEO appearance? That's, let me know what you guys think below. Helps the algorithm when you guys comment too. So really appreciate when you guys do that. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplatesmoredates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, etc. Talk to you guys soon.